Well, hello there. I'm going to show you how to do my Pebble Stone Stitch. So I have a loom, a Cindy Wood loom here. It is a 11.5 inch diameter and it's a 5/8 inch loom. It has 54 pegs. Make someone will ask about that. And the yarn I'm using is King Cole Riot Chunky Yarn. And it's 70% acrylic, 30% wool. It's a bulky yarn, number 5. And the color is called Rainbow. And definitely has every color of the rainbow in it. Okay, and it's a roving type yarn. It has a really nice shine to it, and it really does define stitches. And the loom hook I'm using is from a company that no longer makes them, but you can get similar ones on Etsy if you're interested in these types of loom hooks. So anyway, to get started, what I did was I made 2 end pegs on either side, because I'm going to do an owl eye edge, but you don't have to do that. It's just a stitch video, so I'm only showing you how to do the stitch, but I am showing you enough things that you should be able to do a project. I used the chain cast on to cast on, and I'll have a link to that on my channel. And then I did 2 rows of owl eye, and I will be going over owl eye stitch if you haven't run into it before. So I did 2 rows of owl eye to get it set up to start. Here's what the stitch looks like. Get closer so you can see. It is a really, really nice textured stitch. And it looks really nice on the other side too. There's good stretch. Okay. There, I can see it a little bit better, I think, like that. Okay, let's get started. So it's 2 rows, and you can be odd or even, it doesn't matter. It will work out just the same, so use any amount of pegs you want. And this stitch would be good for a blanket, a hat, a cowl, a scarf, anything really. Okay, and if you wanted it to be a tighter stitch, this is quite a thin bulky, you would use a thicker bulky and you would have a tighter stitch. I actually did a swatch of this in Charisma, and it looks a bit different because the Charisma doesn't have as good a stitch definition as this yarn has, and it was tighter, much tighter. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do for row 1 is we're going to go in front in a U-wrap. We're going to knit over, and then we're going to come back around and go up like that and come under the peg. So we're going to do a purl over on top of a knit. And a purl over is not a purl, we're doing it the knit way. But you come under, and then we're going to pull this yarn up, and then we're just going to flip it over the peg like that and tighten it slightly. You don't want this to get very tight at all. You might not even want to tighten it. Okay, so we come over in a knit, and we just knit it over, come back, come under it, scoop up the working yarn that you're holding onto from the back, and just flip it over the peg and slightly tighten it. You don't want to get it tight. You can come check after to make sure it's loose enough that you'll be able to get it over the peg and keep them loose. Okay, so knit, come around and up, under, scoop the yarn up and just flip it over the peg. Go on to the next peg. See, I'm barely tightening it at all. You want it to be nice and loose and go over. And knit, come back around, bottom, scoop up, flip over. Next peg. So you can go quite fast once you start going. Knit, back in front with the yarn up high, go under, flip this one into a loop and just don't want to twist it and flip it over and tighten. Okay, knit it, come around, and we just flip it. Oop, I split the yarn there. Okay, pick up the yarn properly and flip it on, and then come over and see how you can see how loose this all is. I've kept it quite loose. If it tightens up on you, you'll have to, on the second row, loosen it up as much as you can. Okay, now we're doing the end pegs, which are going to be an owl eye border. So you just go over into a U-wrap, knit it off, and you want to stay loose, and then come over both in front, knit them off, and then come back nice and loose, and you can just loosen this up if you're getting too tight, and then knit back like that, and that's our edge. And now we're going to do the owl eye stitch. So to do owl eye stitch, you're always start on peg 1, go in front of peg 1 and 2, nice and loose, and knit it over. And this should knit over if you've kept this loose. Okay, then you're always at peg 1, you go in front of peg 1 and 2 and knit them. You're always on peg 1, in front of 1 and 2, and knit them. You're on peg 1, in front of 1 and 2, and knit it. On peg 1, in front of 1 and 2, and knit it. Okay, and we just do that all the way to the end, because the end is also an owl eye border. We knit it, come back over, keeping it loose, loosening it up if you need to, and just knit it over. And then we do the second stitch on here, this. Okay, and then we go over and do a U-wrap here, come back around on top, from under, we grab this piece of yarn and put it over. Okay, and we barely tighten it at all. So we do a U-knit, come back around and in front, keeping the yarn up there, come in from the bottom, scoop it up and flip it over, and barely tighten it and go on to the next one. Knit it, come back around, from under, you just flip it over, and there we go. It's not that hard. Knit it, come back around. Once you get used to doing these purl overs, they get easier and easier. It's easier than doing a purl because you don't take anything off. All you do is split the yarn, all you do is flip it over. Okay, so we knit, come back around, and flip it over. Oop. Knit, pull it up from the bottom, flip it over. And then here we just do the owl eye edge. So we knit it, come over peg 1 and 2, knit them over, come back around, nice and loose, knit it over, And then we just do owl eye all the way, always on peg 1 over peg 1 and 2. And that's all there is to it, those 2 rows. So I'm just going to go to the end and we'll have a look at how far it's come along. And then I'm going to stop to look at this, but what I do to always secure it is I don't leave the working yarn there. I bring it back. You don't have to do that, but that's what I like to do, keeping that loose and knitting that over. And that just kind of holds it better in place so this doesn't get too tight. And then we'll take a look at the stitch. There, that's a better light for you to see it. There it is. You notice it got quite a bit bigger just doing those few rows. It does grow pretty fast. And then we'll look at the other side again. And there you can see it. It's actually really nice on this other side too. It's a really pretty stitch. You could showcase both sides if you wanted, or use either side for the good side. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that video, and until next time, bye.